Tonight on Elvis Book Club.
While I was carrying Jeremy, it never occurred to me to think that the baby inside me was Elvis.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. Well, hello. Welcome to Elvis Book Club. I'm here talking with my good friend Pat. Hey, Pat.
Hello.
I'm Brad. This week we read Elvis, Afterlife, Unusual Psychic Experiences Surrounding the Death of a Superstar by Raymond A. Moody, Jr., M.D., originally published in 1987, 10 years after the death, so plenty of time for Elvis's ghost to get his bearings, start making the rounds. So let's dive in. This is basically a collection of spooky ooky stories surrounding the death of Elvis, where people have eerie premonitions of his death. People experience Elvis at the moment of his death.
Visited by Elvis.
And so what's that look like? That looks like melting records, coats moving around, truckers, of course, picking up ghosts, Elvis reincarnating as some lady's kid, a couple talking with Elvis on their home computer, a la Evil Speak. E's Phantom helps a father find his runaway son. It's a book of exciting tales.
Yeah, and some not so exciting, too.
That's true.
I think there's one story where basically Elvis comes and tells the lady to get her shit together, get her life together, and that's pretty much all there is to it.
I mean, they're all that's kind of like a through line. Most of the stories have that. It's usually a woman, and she's not having a good time of it, and she loves Elvis, and he somehow intervenes in their life.
There are a lot of guys, though, and you know what's weird is there's more than one couple in this. There's the Evil Speak couple, and then there's the couple that has stuff fall over.
Yeah, one like a restaurant together or something, right? And
yeah.
A bunch of Elvis memorabilia.
Yeah, kind of, he dies, and a statue falls over, and some pictures fall off the wall. Case closed.
Weird way for Elvis to make his presence known, like destroying his own shit. But what's your favorite?
Well, it's hard to pick just one, but if I do have to pick just one, I'm going to go with The Haunted Jacket.
Okay.
Because they seriously talk about the poltergeist phenomenon in this. So I want to get the lady's name right. Janice, who has a jacket that Elvis wore. She apparently knew Elvis.
I think she was casually dating him, right?
There's more than one person in this book who knows Elvis or who's met Elvis in person, so get them mixed up. But anyhow, she has this jacket that Elvis wore, and it's been hanging in her closet, and she starts to notice some like things happening around the jacket.
Yeah.
And it culminates in the sleeve of the jacket kind of like moving.
On its own accord.
Yeah.
And then it's like wet at some point, right?
Yeah. And I feel like these are things that you could probably explain away pretty easily if you wanted to.
Like there's mice in the sleeve.
Yeah, you got a leak in your closet. And there are mice in the sleeve.
I mean, in fairness, I mentioned rat or mice in the sleeve as a joke. So, like, what do you picture when you say, like, there's probably reasonable explanations for why the sleeve might be moving? Do you have any in mind?
Well, so here's my paranormal experience as a kid.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'm in like second or third grade, and I sleep in the bottom bunk of a bunk bed with one of my younger brothers on top. And I saw my closet door open of its own accord.
Really?
And I was frightened. I was trying to like call out for help from my parents, and nothing was coming out. Well, this was not a paranormal experience. One of our cats was in the closet, and it had like pushed her way out, and I couldn't see the floor where the cat was. So I'm thinking this is something like that. And it doesn't really describe how this, like, I don't get a really good picture of how the sleeve on this jacket is moving, like whether it's like trying to wave at her or if it's just kind of like rippling on the side. But
I thought it was given kind of like a Queen's wave kind of deal, like bending at the elbow. That was the impression I got.
Yeah, I guess I got that impression too, but I could easily see critters doing that somehow.
I don't know. Well, before we investigate this, people listening are going to want to know, is there an end to that story? Like, so what happens?
I don't know. You got to remind me because I don't remember.
Well, I don't think there is one. I think that's one of the flaws of this book is that it's a bunch of tales with really no ending. They're just kind of like, yeah, this happened.
Yeah.
And who knows? Then Moody always kind of does a write-up after he relates this story saying like, yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Basically.
These are fun stories. A little more fun in theory than actually reading them.
Yeah.
But the author, Dr. Moody, he's an MD, right?
Of something. I mean, he's claiming MDism, but, you know.
Well, anyway, he doesn't ever take a position. And so, like, I need someone to, like, try to convince me a little bit with some of this. You just don't get it here. So you're right. It is just kind of a lot of stories that sort of trail off.
So, I mean, I know you're a devotee of Chariots of the Gods and things of this nature.
Certainly.
You've dabbled in numerology.
Yes, I've purchased a volume.
Chelsea's Book of Numbers, right?
Yes, yeah.
You're an owner.
I'll crack it one of these days.
So, do you believe in ghosts?
No, I guess I don't believe in ghosts.
Really?
But the idea that I'm thinking of right now is like, at some point, humans, our ability to hear and see, like, evolved. So there was a time before, like, we had ears that we couldn't detect sound, right? So are there other things that we're missing out on right now because we haven't yet developed the ability to detect them?
Right.
So I guess I'm a little bit open.
I think that's totally valid. They call that the Umwelt, UMWELT, which is like an organism's entire sensory environment. So like exactly that. If there's like some fish that doesn't have ears or a nose, its Umwelt is entirely visual. Has no idea of sound, you know. And yeah, that would apply to us too, because there's all these things we're definitely missing. So I think a lot of this stuff, that and, you know, ESP, like at some point it appears supernatural, but if it's stuff that our bodies can limit us from experiencing fully, we only get like maybe a shadow of it, such as food. By tasting, you get a secondary smell of it. And so maybe we're seeing something we don't necessarily have a full ability to sense, you know?
Yeah. I'm open to it when we put it that way. But if it's like, do you believe that people can bend spoons with their mind? Like a guy who looks like a stoner on the set of That's Incredible. Like, no.
Which is interesting. I mean, that's such a common, fascination with this stuff is almost, let's say this, it's certainly almost universal with people our age and younger.
Yeah.
You know, our parents are kind of like, I think we're too busy working and things like this.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Every time I went to the library, it was monster makeup books, the Loch Ness Monster, and Bigfoot, and ghosts. Like, that was all in the same section, vampires and stuff. And I was drawn to it like moth to flame.
100%. They'd have like the Time Life books.
Yeah.
Maybe like the crystal skull on the cover or something. And the classic shots of like the Bigfoot and some like awful shots of Anton LaVey. You know, some of those photos in those Time Life books. There's the one of the woman descending the stairs, which is like the classic. That chilled me to the bone. Like, so scary. There's the guy in the backseat of the car with like the glowing eyes. Remember that guy? Holy cow.
I was fascinated by The Exorcist. Like, I remember that coming on TV as a kid, but it was almost too much for me to handle. I think I got through the first 10 or 15 minutes and was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And was haunted by that movie.
Well, that was back in the days when you're at the age where you can be not just scared by a movie, but you can be scared of a movie. And there are like movies like I Spit on Your Grave, Mother's Day. There were like these movies that you knew were bad.
Yeah.
And were scary to you. Literally scary to me. Like just the idea of that movie, like I'd see it, it seemed creepy, and it seemed very other, you know, and like something I'd be literally scared to have.
Well, on that same sort of vibe, and like coming back to The Exorcist, there was a copy of Fangoria that I bought because it had like a cover feature on The Exorcist, and I literally got so scared that I like had to take that out of my room. It's so stupid.
Well, so certainly, like, there's no real question about why Elvis would have been so fascinated with this stuff. It's very consistent in these books that he is a person really trying to figure out why he is who he is.
Right.
Right? And why he's in the position he's in.
And there's a very spiritual and sort of ethereal component to his interest in all of that I think kind of rubs up against this.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to his humility. Because I think if you are not a humble person, this kind of great success and adulation seems like, well, of course, I'm kicking ass.
I'm the best.
Yeah, I'm doing great work. But Elvis obviously didn't have that, because so he had to seek outside of himself. Like he always conceived it as something that had kind of befallen him.
Right. Yeah. And haven't we've read about it in more than one book where he's endlessly posing the question, how was I chosen to be Elvis? Why did God choose me?
And weirdly, for a guy who his being a person of faith is very much part of his mythos. He's definitely would consider himself a Christian, right?
Yes.
I mean, he loved hymns and all that stuff.
Right.
Yet he wasn't really a churchgoer.
Right. And he, again, in these books we've read, he was really turned off by the dogma of the church. He was open to like Jesus and the Bible and stuff.
Yeah.
But when it came to like, you know, you can't do this because you're a good Christian, he kind of balked at that.
Yeah. But he's turning to all these kind of fringe schools of thought and religious thought to find the answers he's looking for. So why isn't he just delving deeper into Christianity? Like, why is Christianity seems to have not served him in this?
Well, I think I don't know if it's a famous quote, but he's quoted as saying like he doesn't want to be left out of heaven on a technicality. So he just wants to like cover all of his bases, I guess.
That would account for him like wearing a Star of David, or as Verna would call it, a Jew star.
A Jewish sign.
A Jewish sign. Did he not say Jew star? Is that come out of my mind? Maybe Vester said Jew star. I'm absolved. So that would account for that. I mean, that's kind of like the Sammy Davis Jr. thing. But like, I genuinely think
is that a Sammy Davis Jr. quote? Sorry.
I think it's been attributed to both those guys. It's probably one of those things that's been attributed to like 9 different people, you know? I don't think that explains why. I think he's genuinely seeking answers in these books.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's about a technicality or kind of like playing the game, like the religious game. I think he's saying, I need answers to these questions. I'm not getting them from the Bible.
Right.
So I'm going to these other places.
And I very much see that he's instigating that quest too. I think some people would want to argue that, he was influenced by other people, like Larry Geller, like the spiritual guy.
Yeah.
But I don't see that. Like, I see Elvis being drawn to Larry Geller because he knows that he knows more about this stuff.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Elvis brought those people in.
Yeah.
I mean, even Ed Parker had kind of a religious bent. Obviously, he's a Mormon, but, had a lot of discussions apparently with him.
Hawaiian spiritual guy also.
Hawaiian spiritualist, Ed Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Elvis had that searching nature and was very open to that stuff. It's just interesting to me that a person who's so tied to traditional American Christian faith didn't really seemingly invest that much in it. He seemed way more interested in like the spooky ooky occult stuff and numerology.
Yeah. In a way, he kind of had it both ways because like I think he was a devoted Christian, and that I think that helps his appeal with your average Joe like American family or whatever. But that sort of gets like talked up, but then yes, his exploration of other faiths and other spiritualities, you don't hear about that as much, or it's talked about in more hushed tones, I guess.
Yeah, it's not part of his mainstream story.
Right.
I think you're totally right, and especially in like the late 50s and early 60s, being a good Christian probably was a big, big help for him. So I wonder how much that was really just kind of played up. Because if someone hadn't told you like Elvis is a good Christian, and you just read these books, you would think there's some Christianity in there, but he's primarily an occultist. Like he's really, his true interest and fascination seems to be these kind of like new agey.
But then his image as a Christian is bolstered by his creative output too, because there are at least 3 gospel records, right? There's His Hand in Mine, How Great Thou Art, and then He Touched Me.
Oh, okay. If you didn't know those were Christian, you'd think that was like a seduction trilogy. His Hand in Mine, He Touched Me, How Great Thou Art, right? But yeah, I think that's a big part. Obviously we love Elvis. If I think of things you could take away from the Elvis story that would really affect it, I think if he was not super into all this stuff, he would be a much duller character. I agree. To be appeal, like this is a big part of it. It's partially that stuff does extend to his fans, as we're seeing in this book. I mean, it's partly a window into that 70s world of, I think it's a bunch of people who crisped up their brains during the hippie era.
Yeah.
And then are kind of just like, I just want to chill out in the suburbs, but I still want to have like weird sex and stuff. And, whatever, you just get into like channeling and all this crap, like new age, that kind of new age thing, right? Like crystals. And so Elvis having an interest in that it could have gone much darker. Right? Because if Elvis had really, at that time in the 70s, if he had invested in this whole occultism stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, with the love already shown to him and like the sexual power he had. I mean, not that Elvis ever could have been a cult leader. He could have. Not that he ever would have, but he definitely has what he would have needed.
On that note, it's interesting that he rejected Scientology, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like you're getting at something with, if he had directed all of his energies towards one faith or one cult or one organization or whatever, like then it gets super dark. But like he truly seems like he just has an open, questioning mind, and he just wants to like take it all in. He doesn't want to exclude anything, because imagine if he had sort of embraced Scientology. That'd be really disheartening.
It'd be kind of a bummer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. I think that's a really good point, because it directly speaks to the idea that Elvis, in his heart of hearts, was not into dogma. And that, obviously, clothing, personal style, how he sings, how he lives his life. Yeah, you're right. It's some very deep part of him. No one was ever going to trick him into only believing one thing,
right,
and rejecting other things. You're absolutely right.
But this all, like, he could have embraced Scientology. He could have embraced Mormonism. And that just makes me think of, from Ed Parker's book, Elvis telling Ed, allegedly, that He really wants Lisa Marie to be brought up in the Mormon church. There's no way that happened.
Unless he said it when he was like, hey,
do we have time for a slight digression?
Sure.
Getting back to Ed Parker, I did watch Ed Parker's star turn and Kill the Golden Goose.
You watched the whole thing?
Yeah.
Where's Glenda?
I don't think it's any of your business.
I'm making it my business.
Listen, Coconut Head, keep pushing, and I'll break you in half.
And it's not very good, but I think you need to watch it.
What are the vitals? What era is it? What's the basic story?
It is the late 70s, perhaps early 80s. Ed Parker, he's like some famed Hawaiian hitman, and some guy wants him to kill, it's either 5 guys in 3 days or 3 guys in 5 days, because these guys are going to like testify in front of the Senate.
Oh, so he's a bad guy?
Yeah, he's kind of an anti-hero. There aren't really any good guys, but I mean, he definitely is the protagonist. He's got a love scene and everything. They're very gentlemanly love scenes.
Okay.
But there's literally the last 30 seconds of the movie, there's a twist.
Really?
That I don't want to give away that I think you would appreciate.
His faceplate falls off? Bzzz.
Not quite. I don't want to say anymore.
Okay. Well, if there's stories that are worth talking about, I mean, do you have any in mind?
Well, I can just go down the list here. It starts out, there's the one lady who has a dream of Elvis where he kind of asks her, like, are you satisfied with your life? And basically, like, get your shit together. And I guess she does after that. There's Claude the farmer. Elvis appears on his farm. There's Jack, truck driver with the hitchhiker. That's a really good one.
That is the classic hitchhiker ghost story. He's like stopping to gas his truck and he sees like Elvis walks out of these woods across the street.
Yeah.
He's like, where you headed, son? Going to Memphis, sir.
Memphis, a lot of sirs. He's a very polite young man. Speaks very fondly of his mother, which he has in common with the truck driver who also lives with his mom.
Yeah.
So he's driving through the night to get to his mom as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the truck driver picks him up. Oh, he talked a lot about owning Cadillacs. He had to get to Memphis to see his mama.
And then at some point, I didn't catch your name, son. I'm Elvis Presley. And that like freaks the guy out. Basically can't look at him for the rest of the ride. It's very uncomfortable.
Of course, he has to be dropped off at Elvis Presley Boulevard.
Yeah.
And that's the whole story. And so that's like Red and Fan of 309.
Or kind of a flip-flop of Large Marge and Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
It's the same story. Yeah. The hitchhiker thing, it's so interesting because I would say that that's the Central American ghost story. And yet it revolves around automobiles. Mm-hmm. It's such a modern ghost story. We don't have castles. We don't have this whole Gothic history. We have like very American ghosts, which is super cool.
Yeah, there's no more American ghost than Elvis.
For sure. Or Jane Mansfield.
Maybe Abraham Lincoln.
He's pretty American. Where's he haunt?
Aren't there stories about him in the White House?
Oh, really? I don't think he would hang out at the White House. I think he'd hang out at Joshua Speed's place. This is two Illinois guys talking. We know a lot about Lincoln. And you're from Springfield, so you guys are steeped in Lincoln.
It's in my blood. Beverly has a near-death experience in the hospital. I can't remember why, but so she's going over to the other side. She sees Elvis, and then also her dad, who talks her back into living.
Oh, yeah. Elvis does a fair bit of, like, Sherpaing.
Yeah.
Guiding people. This way, honey.
Yeah.
He had nothing else to do.
But that story was weird because Elvis was there, and he was a comforting figure, but then it's her father who does most of the hard work of shepherding her, carries the load with that one.
Like,
but Elvis is there.
You got this one, Jerry.
There's Ruth Ann and her melted record collection.
Yep.
She discovers the day or week of Elvis's death.
Yeah.
She's got a collection of Elvis records that she's a devoted fan, and she has a special spot for her records, and they've been there for months or years or whatever, and for some reason on the day of his death, they're all damaged and melted.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Just wonder what kind of heat she had in her apartment.
You think?
Just like sitting next to a radiator or something. I mean, I guess it would have happened before.
Yeah.
Or, this is one of those things where, like, do we really trust that she's a big Elvis fan? Did she listen to those records all the time? Or was it just Elvis has died? I want to listen to some records. They've been melted for years and I haven't really listened.
Yeah. And they don't really describe how melted. I mean, are they just warped from heat? Or I got you say melted, I think of like a candle.
Yeah, exactly. I was like just a puddle of melted vinyl. Like,
probably not though, right?
No, probably not. There's Arthur and Marion. They're the couple who, yes, considered Elvis their sort of surrogate son from afar. The night of his death, some stuff falls over. There's a statue. There are a couple of photos. One of him and his mom, and the other is like him in the army. I think it's an autograph photo. Whatever. It happens a couple of times. And one thing that I think is like a really glaring omission in this, nobody ever asks the question, why us in particular? If you had some kind of otherworldly experience that involved Elvis, I mean, I certainly would think, what the hell was that? Why me? But everyone in this book, that never comes up. Elvis visited me, and naturally Elvis visited me.
Yeah, I mean, that could be due to the self-selection of this book, in that if 1,000 people have thought they saw Elvis and 985 went, well, why would I have seen Elvis?
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. I'll just forget it.
Yeah.
They're not going to respond to the call for this book.
Yeah.
And it's those last 15 people are like, yes. Right?
That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's going to like pretty random people. And some of these people, like, as you said, they do mention having bump-ins with Elvis, but most of it's basically like, we saw him once and he said hi, or he walked past me and smiled when I was a little baby or something like that.
I mean, a few of these people, Moody makes mention of, like, they weren't huge Elvis fans, but most of the people in this book, it sounds like, were pretty big Elvis fans.
Pretty freaking big.
He's at the forefront of their head.
Yeah. So he's visiting them, but then also like, why is he manifesting himself by destroying mementos of him? It doesn't make any sense. If you were a ghost, a picture of you would be like, gah!
Well, I guess it wouldn't be like, gah, but it's like, I'll knock this picture of myself over. So, like, if I went and haunted my wife and kids, like, if I knocked a picture of them over, how terrifying would that be?
That's
You're
a good
next,
point.
Fuckers.
But you're right. By messing with your own stuff, you're signaling who it is who's messing with them. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Yeah, I just couldn't get over the fact that he's kind of like destroying things. So I was taken by the violence of it, like melting and knocking things over.
But I guess I wouldn't take it as a violence, as it's just he's reaching out from the other side, and it's like a really hard thing to do. So, like, imagine he's sort of tied up in a chair, and he's got to like kick something over with his free foot. Because otherwise, if it were super easy, he'd just show up in their bedroom. Hey, man, what's up? Hope you're having a good sleep. You might want to think about making some changes in your life.
Look me up when you die.
All right, I'll see you later.
Excellent point.
There's Harold and his runaway son, which is that's a good one too.
That's a very good one. And that story in a synopsis form is this guy, he's like a South Midwest sheriff of a smaller town whose son gets involved with drugs and is kind of like a wild child.
And what is crazy to me, he talks about his kid getting into drugs in middle school, which I suppose is not that out of the ordinary. But I envision a kid who's 17 years old, but it's really like a 12 or 13-year-old. It's crazy. It's very over the edge.
Yeah. So this kid gets into some trouble, and eventually he just runs away from home and goes to L.A., as it turns out. But, of course, no one knows where he went. So the dad, is tormented by this. They have no idea where even to look. And then one night the dad has this dream where Elvis basically, like, walks him through this area in L.A.
Yeah.
He's like, he's in there. And he points to this hazy building by this corner where there's, like, a gas station or a donut shop or something.
A hot dog stand or something, yeah.
Yeah. And the guy is like, I gotta go. I gotta try. So he and his kid fly to LA and start looking around, and eventually they stumble on that spot.
Yes.
They see it as Elvis showed it to him, and he tells his kid, like, I know Ricky or whatever is in that building. It doesn't explain how. He hadn't mentioned to the other son that he had been visited. And sure enough, they go in there.
It's just too crazy.
Too damn crazy.
No one would believe me.
Yeah, he's a sheriff.
Yeah.
He's a level-headed sheriff, as Moody puts it. So, yeah, sure enough, he goes in the house and he finds the kid, and the kid's like, oh, thank God, and takes him home.
Which I found kind of weird. I mean, like, he basically knocks on the door, and there's the lady who runs the rooming house or whatever, and that kid's upstairs. And it sounded to me like the kid is just like hanging out in this room. His dad walks in, and he's just like, Daddy, I want to go home. I want it to be like way more depraved. He walks in, and the kid is trying to dry out from heroin or something. Like, please take me home.
Yeah. I mean, the dad would have probably cleaned that up.
Yeah, I suppose so.
My kid was puking like white shit. Like dried up needle hanging out of his arm.
Yeah. The old man who picked him up the night before just left. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. So he probably didn't mention that stuff. So yeah, I found that to be the way Moody presents that is really compelling because he starts it off by really focusing on how stable the dad seems. And the dad, even in the telling of the story, is as baffled by it as anybody.
Yeah.
You wonder, like, what would he gain by faking that? You know, it's not like a hidden Christian message where maybe like he could justify making that up because it propagates some like good message. I don't see that message in here.
And he's clearly reluctant to tell this tale, like not like going to the bar and like getting drinks off this story.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. So yeah, I found it really compelling. It also seems very fake, but I don't know why it would be fake, I guess.
This story in particular is very evocative of a very scummy time and place. I just see this kid with bell bottoms and like a ratty like tank top and like a puka shell necklace and a scum stash. Like, and his dad coming like white buck shoes or something like that. And his dad like taking him home in like a Mercury Montego or something like that.
Like he's staying at the hotel that like Richard Ramirez stayed at. Yeah, that was a good story. That was one of the better stories in the book.
Yeah, that is followed by Polly and her pantry door, where shortly after Elvis's death, she and a friend noticed one day that Elvis's image is in her pantry door. I mean, this is like a stereotypical Weekly World News kind of story, which I think that's probably why I find this one kind of entertaining. But it's also like somehow I find it completely stupid. Like
somehow.
It is completely stupid. It's just so dumb. It's really dumb. Like, if you're going to have a supernatural experience, like, this is just, it's just dumb.
Yeah, I mean, the dumbness is part of the appeal for me. But yeah, it's a very common, I mean, there's no shortage of Virgin Marys and tortillas and like stains on walls. Like, I remember seeing those news reports as a kid. You know, it's the same as, and I think even Moody points out, it's the same as seeing things in clouds.
Yeah.
I think they call it matrixing. It's a human thing of you can see anything and turn it into a face. Just as we're crazy. Moody does go and investigates. He goes and looks at the pantry door. And once it's pointed out to him, of course he sees it. It's like the same phenomenon as EVPs, you know, where they record ghosts.
Oh, right.
And you hear a sound, and one guy goes, "Oh, he's saying Lester." And they go, "Let's hear it again." You go, "Oh, yeah, it's Lester."
Yeah.
Lester. So I don't find that very compelling evidence.
Yeah, but a fun story nonetheless. The story that comes after that is a lady named Nancy gives birth to a little boy who she names Jeremy, and she believes is Elvis reincarnated.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I selected that as my favorite story, only because it has such wrenching real world implications.
Yeah.
The way this woman is like basically destroyed her son's mind. Like really
it's such an early age too, because he's like 6 years old, I think.
But it starts way earlier.
Yeah.
I think as the story goes, she marries her high school boyfriend right when they graduate high school. They fight constantly. She gets knocked up. He takes off. He chooses to go and become a drifter. And she actually, people like ask her, like, where is he? And she's like, oh, he became a drifter.
You got to give the dude some credit.
Totally. I mean, that's a rarely taken career path anymore, drifting. And I've certainly see a great appeal in that, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot going for the drifter lifestyle.
Many pluses, many minuses.
Yeah. So this woman is left alone to raise this child. You know, she's at this point 18, 19. She's a huge Elvis fan. And at the same time, Elvis dies. And so she's going through the split up of her marriage, the fact that her husband has chosen drifting over her and her child, and the death of Elvis. And the death of Elvis seems even more affecting to her. So, of course, the kid pops out and all this, and she's raising him. And very early on, she says she starts to get feelings that there's something in there. You know, as the kid will she listens to Elvis while she's ironing, and the kid will bounce around and stuff. And so she's gets more and more suspicious until at one point, I think the kid's like 3 or something. She crouches down and looks him dead in the eye and says, "Are you Elvis Presley?" And he goes, "Uh-huh." She goes, "Oh my God." So she's like, "I need verification." So she goes to her batty sister and is like, "Do you think there's something special about Jeremy?" And her sister, who she's gone to for counsel, says like, "Well, I think he's probably Elvis reincarnated, if that's what you're talking about."
Yeah.
And the sister's like, "That is what I'm talking about, in fact." He goes, "Why do you think that?" And she goes, "Well, we were babysitting him, me and my husband, and he turned to us, apropos of nothing, and looked at us with his dead little eyes and said, 'Elvis like peanut butter and banana.'" And of course, you know, they were like, "Well, we've never heard that. We've never heard that at all." Nor had the other sister. Until months later, they read that in some report that Elvis did, in fact, like peanut butter and banana. So they were like, well, how could this child know this? And so at that point, everyone in the family agrees this is Elvis reincarnated, who's come back to console the wife, the mom, over Elvis's loss, which is dubious.
A little bit.
Kind of harkens back to your question, like, why me? Why are you going, you're going to reincarnate at once just to make me feel a little bit better? When frankly, there's much more disturbing things happening in my life.
Well, she does mention that her son now is destined for great things. Great things being kind of a subjective sort of idea. There's great things like he's going to become the president of the world, lead us all into peace and harmony, or is he just going to become like a real top-notch Elvis impersonator? I'd love to see this like filmed as a movie, like a Rashomon style movie. So on one hand, you have Nancy saying like, I asked my sister, is there anything special? And my sister said, oh, yes. And then you get the sister. the sister's version of the story is just like, yeah, he's Elvis reincarnated. Now, like, can we not talk about something else? Like,
yeah, that's one of those things that actually kind of pains me because, like, I need to know what happened to this kid. And, you know, Moody uses all aliases in this book.
Yeah, he's never going to let you know as a matter of professionalism.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, if you're a kid and you're convinced at 6 you're Elvis reincarnated, your mom is fucking convinced, you don't have a dad, your dad's a drifter, what happens to you? At some point, you probably get sick of it, too. You're just like,
oh, yeah.
Mom, shut up.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't the resentment just, like, grow and fester inside of you?
Yeah.
Unless you're completely brainwashed and you're bonkers, too, in which case, who knows?
I bet that kid, of all kids, chose to live with his dad. I have a drifter husband and a drifter son, and he is just riding the rails with this old man.
Oh, so you think he's right? Like he's somehow like reunited with his dad, or he just like follows the similar path of his father?
I think he reunites with his dad. If people in town still kind of know where he is, I get the impression he drifts, but not too far.
I could also see
drifting
like
around the outskirts of town.
Maybe mom's not taking real great care of herself, so she has like a heart attack at age 45, dies, and he like goes to live with his aunt and uncle, and his uncle sort of takes him under his wing and is just like, listen, your mom and her sister are kind of nuts, so like it's gonna be okay. Take it all with a grain of salt.
This is called Led Zeppelin. Check this out. You can have a sip of my beer. But yeah, you have to get away from that. If you stop believing you're Elvis and your mom does not, and you're in a single parent home, like you have to run away.
Yeah, you have to find a boarding house in Los Angeles and do your own thing.
Yeah, the Ramirez Arms. Skid Row. So that was a compelling story, but not probably for the reason they think it is. So that's what all the people in the book have experienced. Where are you at? If you had your druthers and you got your own personal Elvis supernatural experience, what are you looking for?
I would love Elvis as my supernatural avenging angel, but Elvis's vengeance would just be like phantom karate chops. The guy's like, ow, what's that? Elvis, that man cut me off in traffic. What are we going to do about it? And then my like eyes roll back in my head and I kind of levitate. And then you're like, ow. And then that's it. And then I come to, whoa, what happened?
Okay, so you never actually see Elvis?
Somehow I'm conversing with it. I'm thinking of like Danny in The Shining, where Elvis is the little dude that like lives in my mouth.
Yeah.
And we talk, and then like occasionally I have a spell, and then
happen.
you find some DVDs knocked over from your shelf.
What did I do?
It's a really like my avenging angel, but the revenge is always really like petty and lame.
And do you think you're calling forth Elvis, or you just go straight into the spell? Or you like, Elvis, I need help, and then you go, or do you just go like,
no, I think
guy.
like it's got to be a little like I can't just like will it into happening. Everything aligns.
It's almost like,
I can't take it anymore, and then
it's like a Bruce Banner thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right, but it's specifically Elvis somehow. I'm channeling this weird like karate Elvis. He's in a gi, karate chop. The neighbor across the street, his dog will not shut up, and he needs to fix the exhaust on his. This is drawing like way too specifically from my real life. But like, why is it every time that I look out my window, I always notice you? I'd like to just go about my business without you in my peripheral vision all the time. Make your dog be quiet, make your car be quiet, and just stay inside a little more often. And then Elvis takes revenge in a way that probably doesn't fix the situation at all. Just makes me feel better. Elvis will like karate chop the dude or like put the front tire out. So then he's out there like changing his tire. It makes it worse.
Yeah.
But the guy is inconvenienced.
But he has no idea that it's, there's no way for him to like put two and two together and go, I need to change my ways.
Right.
It's strictly punishment.
Exactly.
And light punishment. Elvis would never actually harm a person.
No.
So karate, like a ghostly karate chop.
Right.
Maybe if the guy had a collection of boards stacked, he might be karate chopped in half.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great one. You could really do a unsuccessful sitcom with that premise.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could have a real good 3-episode run.
Yeah.
You know, before everyone runs out of ideas. But
How about you?
my initial thought, I'm an old person, and so I don't have many fun thoughts. And so I was very practical. I'm trying to take care of my health, my diet and stuff, and exercise. And my initial thought was an Elvis that just appears basically to slap sandwiches out of my hands. Or if I got a donut, he just appears.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man.
That fits very much in line with the, hey man, get it together.
Yeah.
So there's precedent for this.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be helping me towards health. I'd be about to eat a donut and he'd come by and be like, Or I'd be running and thinking about quitting, and all of a sudden he'd be there in an all red 70s running suit.
Yeah. Well,
Come on, man. Keep it up, man.
except would he be running alongside, or would he be in a golf cart driving beside you?
No, I think he's running alongside me. He's running in that really high need way. He's like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. The girl Jack LaLanne kind of
Yeah.
jog. So that was my initial thought, but that was kind of lame. And that
I
actually,
think that's good.
it felt like I was asking a little too much. Because basically I'm like, I would like my paranormal experience with Elvis to be a lifetime of him. Basically helping me make decisions I should probably be able to make on my own. So I thought well, if it's just a one-time thing, then it got interesting to think about because, as we said earlier, you asked the question of how do all these people not question the fact that Elvis is visiting them? Mm-hmm. And I think really any traditional Elvis sighting that I might have, I would naturally just be like, well, this isn't happening. At best, I just have a weird daydream. Mm-hmm. At worst, I'm probably losing my mind.
Yeah.
So say a kitten's about to be run over by a bus, and all of a sudden I see Elvis's ghost darts across and picks up the kitten and gets him out of the danger.
Uh-huh.
If no one else saw that, I dismissed it. I don't know what I saw, but I didn't see that, and I would probably have forgotten it 2 days, right? So I was like, I could have one of those experiences, but it wouldn't be of much value. And then if he actually did something, if he came to me and was like, Brad, in 3 days, the house shall fall. And then my next door neighbor's house falls down in 3 days.
Yeah.
I would also probably, I would go to, I'm losing my mind somehow, and that would really scare me more than I would be like, oh, Elvis's ghost came to tell me that my neighbor's house is going to fall down, right?
Yeah, you put it like that.
So what I landed on was this. And actually, once I hit this, I was really pleased with myself because it's actually made me feel kind of good. If I'm going to have an Elvis paranormal experience, I want to be in Meditation Gardens, looking down upon the final resting place of the family.
Yeah.
And I want to turn to my right and look into the backyard and see a ghostly Elvis on Rising Sun, his favorite horse.
Okay.
But a ghostly Rising Sun, maybe with a couple of the guys, the dearly departed guys, riding horses in the backyard, smiling and laughing, maybe eating popsicles. Maybe they got a big bag of hot dog buns.
Yeah.
But just enjoying their horses, enjoying being together, enjoying the freedom of death. Elvis getting to enjoy Graceland and be outside of Graceland, and he's not being monitored. He can actually live freely. And if I just saw that happen, they just ran by across the yard and then kind of disappeared. I wouldn't care if I said, you know what, I just made that up in my head because I'm steeped in Elvis at the moment. I'm in Graceland. It's all happening right now. Or maybe that really was a ghost. It really wouldn't matter because either way, it would be really heartening.
Yeah.
I feel really good about it.
That's kind of beautiful.
Thank you. I thought so.
But I think your ideas about Elvis telling you the house is going to fall down and seeing that happen and thinking you're going crazy, that's probably more likely what would be happening. It wouldn't be that fun because I don't think you or I don't consider myself a super smart guy, but I don't think either of us are stupid enough to believe that I'm special and Elvis is reaching out to me.
I think it would be very disturbing.
Yeah.
And more disturbing if I believed it. If I did go Elvis has chosen me. Well, he told me that my neighbor's house is going to fall down and I didn't do anything about it. So I feel kind of guilty about that. My neighbor's dead.
Oh, your neighbor died in this?
Yeah, whole family.
Oh, man.
Big Catholic family.
Because, I wouldn't feel, I'd feel bad for sure, but, how are you going to, convince your neighbor? First of all, you have to believe that. And then you have to go convince your neighbor that, you're in danger.
Yeah. How would you know this?
Well, I had a dream. And of course, the stakes are high like that. I would probably get kind of heated. You got to believe me. So that then I come off even crazier.
Yeah.
And probably end up in jail.
Well, at best, you would, in that situation, you would go to their house. You'd be like, you can't be here in 2 days. Mm-hmm. Okay? The house is gonna fall on you. And they'd be like, okay, you're crazy. And I would say, look, I will pay for you guys all to get a nice hotel room for that night. Just go and do it, please. Here's the money. And then they do that, and then their house does fall down. We're at their hotel. Of course they're going to think I fucking knocked their house down somehow.
Yeah.
So you really can't win.
Yeah. Or maybe like in doing that, you change the course of the future or whatever. You've gotten them out of the house. Therefore, like the equation's changed so their house does not fall.
Yeah.
Elvis comes back to you afterward. I mean, if you're lucky, Elvis comes back to you afterward and says like, yes, you look like a crazy man, but you saved those people. Or is it just like you have the dream, you tell them, you insist they stay at a hotel. They do. They come back, the house is still standing, and like now you're the crazy neighbor, but you've also, I guess, paid for them to have like a weekend away or something. I don't know how that works out.
Yeah.
It's weird no matter what.
That would be okay. I would be okay with either of those eventualities. If they came back and they were like, oh, you're just crazy. I mean, they already thought I was crazy. I don't mind spending the money to save people's lives. But I think what would really be disturbing is, because after that happened, you would be like one of these like Old Testament guys. God dang it. God keeps telling me to do shit. I gotta fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, he wants me to like kill my kid, and like I gotta leave my house, and like, because at that point you couldn't. The next time Elvis shows up and goes, in 3 days, you know, the cat will explode. You're like, oh fuck, dude, which cat?
Or do you look at like, so in the scenario where you've given them a couple of days at a hotel or whatever, and the house still stands, then after that, do you walk around with like this way elevated sense of self-satisfaction? Like they think you're crazy, but then every time you see them, you're like, you're welcome.
Wait, in this scenario, did the house fall?
It did not fall.
Did not fall, but I know that
You know that you saved them. They're just like, this is bananas. This guy is like out of his mind. But then I just love the idea of them thinking that, but then you've each got it over on the other. There's that crazy guy. And then you're like, saved your life, man. I saved your life and I don't want anything in return.
Well, you could reimburse him. That could get ugly, though. What if it is something where, like, that family was meant to die?
Oh, Jesus. All of your premonitions are, like, with that family?
Exactly.
Oh, man.
So now we've kicked it off. It's whatever that one at the plane is, where all the teenagers are getting killed because they survived some plane crash.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Something.
Final Destination?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. These people are now slated to die anyway. So even though I saved them once, Elvis comes right back.
So it's your job now to, like, continuously save them with the direction of Elvis.
Yeah, and they're, of course, if like the house didn't fall down, they're increasingly less inclined to follow. Even if I'm offering to pay, if I'm like, oh, this is like their car will explode. I'm like, fuck, I don't rent a car for these cocksuckers. And then even they're just going to be like, dude, I appreciate it, but I don't need the car.
Yeah.
Which would be fine, because then if they all died, well, I did what I could, and I saved some money. But what would really be bad if it was like the next one was like, their youngest daughter will die in your basement. You know, or something like that, where it's like really like, or like she'll die on your property. And so you go over there and be like, don't let your youngest daughter onto my property. She's going to die.
Or is it like an Oedipus Rex thing where like everything you do to like prevent this from happening is just part of the puzzle? Like you're just playing into it. So you nail all your doors shut. Somehow the girl manages to get in, but the fact that you've nailed all your doors shut, she can't get out.
Yeah.
And oh man.
Yeah. So I really should all thank Elvis for mine his beeswax and letting shit happen.
Although I guess I don't mind the idea of Elvis like welcoming me into the afterlife, if there is such a thing.
That would be wonderful. But also be like, all right, can I see my mom, dude?
Yeah. Well, well it's like with this
side?
one lady where he's come with me, and then it's like get to hang out with their dad.
Yeah.
So
if Elvis greeted me, I would be charmed and I would be very thankful. But
Brad, we're really happy to have you here.
Yeah. Thanks, Elvis. That's nice to hear.
I hope you have a good afterlife.
Next.
It's like a greeter at a casino.
We got a big line today, honey. Keep it moving.
I wish I could talk to you longer, but
glad you're here. Keep moving. A little spat on the ass. Like, keep it going. But I think him being there, him insisting on greeting me would feel like when he proposed to have the room built for himself in Dr. Nick's house.
Yeah,
where it's like, I'm going to do this nice thing, but I'm kind of also muscling it on shit.
A real flex. Just like, don't forget. I'm the one who pays the bills around here.
He's going to want to, like, no, I think he's going to want to be greeted by his deceased relatives. Like, I don't think so, man. Like, there's plenty of time for them. We'll really wow them. This will really get them good.
Yeah.
I could see that, the prankish nature of Elvis, really liking that.
Or crazy, as he liked to call himself.
Yeah. Like, I could see that. You get up there and it is like Jesus, or it's a guy with the big beard and like the robes and everything. It's like, welcome, my son, to Oh, I'm just kidding. It tears out the beard.
You should have seen the look on your face, man.
All right, get in
Now
there.
go say hi to your mom.
I could see him liking that because he did like to blow people's minds.
Yeah.
That came up in some of these books where they would go on vacations and Elvis would be like, I just need time alone. I need to go on vacation. But then inevitably he would like be in the convenience store and be like, buy this man every grocery he needs. You know? And then for the next day, the whole town's like a flutter because they know Elvis is there. He keeps blowing it, but like he can't stop blowing minds, right? And so there's no reason to think that would stop when he dies. Yeah. So really, he's probably, as a ghost, if he's doing anything, it would be like just straight mind-blowing. Like he wakes up in heaven in the morning. He's like, I'll see you guys tonight. Heads down here. And it's just like stirring pots. So, all right. Back to heaven.
Are you recommending this book to people? Because I don't think I can recommend it.
No, I think you'd be better off you could just do a Google search for like Elvis supernatural tales and you're going to get stuff, no question, of an equal to this.
Yeah.
And probably stuff that's way better.
Yeah.
There's nothing too great in here. Even the good stories are just kind of like typical ghost stories.
Yeah.
Like there are stories you've heard in other contexts. And this kind of, it just happens to be Elvis in this version. So
Yeah.
they're kind of like urban legend.
Well, yeah, I think he even mentions in this book, like he could write any number of books about this kind of phenomenon with any number of celebrities.
Yeah.
JFK being one of them.
Yeah. How boring would that be? Can you imagine that?
God.
Like, really, JFK?
I don't know. There might be some like, I don't know, if JFK is telling you like party stories, that might be kind of fun.
Of all that, he would
Did
be
you really
so far
kill
down.
Marilyn?
He would be so far down on my list. It would actually be a burden on me. So I'd be like, I don't want him to feel bad that I really don't care about him. He's there. He's got like holding a bandage to his head. He's like, I came to help you, Brad. I came to help you and tell you stories about pork and chicks. I'm like, yeah, all right. I guess seem enthused. You know, it's like when you get a shitty Christmas gift. Oh, this is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, how neat. You're here, John F. Kennedy.
A bandage, huh? You couldn't find a hat?
So, no, I would not recommend it. I mean, I recommend Elvis scholarship in all its forms, but I think this would be lower on the list than the vast majority of Elvis books that I've been exposed to.
Yeah, it's not any great shakes.
Well, that about covers it. So this was our penultimate episode for this season. And next week, it's going to be a biggie. We are going to be reading Elvis, What Happened, the book by Red West, Sonny West, Dave Habler, The Traitors.
Traitors, or are they attempting to save him?
Well, I guess we'll figure that out. This is definitely, I mean, if you don't know, dear listener, this is one of the heavies in Elvis scholarship. Your Elvis library, like, you're only going to have 3 books. There's no question this has to be there.
This has got to be there.
And this is the book that came out during his life. This is the one that impacted Elvis the most. This is the one that actually has a presence in other Elvis books because it was so impactful in his life.
Right.
It's the biggie. So that's going to be very exciting. But even more exciting is we're going to attempt a bold crossover episode with our good friends over at Suspicious Minds podcast, Wade and Burl.
Yeah.
And we're going to do like a 4-way mega chat all about Elvis, What Happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be, well, I have no idea how it's going to be. It's either going to be
We're looking forward to it for sure, though.
It'll be super fun to record. If it's coherent or not, I can't make any claims. But so, yeah, look forward to that. In the meantime, do consider checking out their podcast, Suspicious Minds. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email at elvisbookclub@gmail.com or give us an old-fashioned call and leave a message at 312-380-1114. And having said that, we'll move on, and we'll do so in the manner of all Elvis fans the world over by saying a few simple words. You know, Pat, there was a guy I said one time, he said, you never stood in that man's shoes.
Or saw things through his eyes.
Or stood and watched with helpless hands.
While the heart inside you dies.
So help your brother along the way, no matter where he starts.
For the same God that made you, made him too. These men with broken hearts.
Good night.
And God bless.
Everybody's gone away.